Ferdinand Magellan arrived in Malacca during 1511 as part of the Portuguese fleet that would transform this strategic port into the crown jewel of their Southeast Asian empire. The city represented everything that made the spice trade so profitable and so dangerous. Ships from China anchored beside vessels from India, while Arab merchants negotiated with Javanese traders in a cacophony of languages that created the soundtrack of global commerce. Portuguese sailors walked through markets where cinnamon from Ceylon sat next to nutmeg from the distant Moluccas and black pepper from the hills of southern India. The air itself seemed thick with the scent of profits that European monarchs would kill to control. This multicultural trading hub operated as the central nervous system of Asian commerce, where dozens of languages intersected in daily business transactions. Malay served as the common tongue that allowed merchants from different regions to communicate, but successful traders needed to understand fragments of Tamil, Arabic, Chinese, and various Indonesian dialects to navigate the complex negotiations that determined spice prices. Portuguese soldiers heard conversations switching between languages mid-sentence as traders adapted their speech to match whoever they were bargaining with at any given moment. The linguistic diversity created both opportunities and challenges for Portuguese administrators, who needed local interpreters to establish their colonial control over the existing trade networks. Portuguese forces moved quickly to establish military control over this crucial choke point that connected the Indian Ocean with the South China Sea. Albuquerque understood that whoever controlled Malacca could determine which ships gained access to the Spice Islands and at what cost. Portuguese cannons positioned along the harbor entrance could sink any vessel that attempted to bypass their new customs requirements. The strategic location allowed Portugal to collect taxes on virtually every spice shipment moving between Asia and the Middle East, while simultaneously blocking competitors from establishing their own direct relationships with spice producers in the Moluccas. The establishment of Portuguese Malacca created the perfect conditions for a slave market that would supply laborers for their expanding colonial operations throughout Southeast Asia. Portuguese colonists needed workers who could communicate with local populations and perform skilled tasks that required cultural knowledge beyond what European settlers possessed. Recent maritime archaeology from 2025 has uncovered evidence of the large-scale slave trade that operated through Malacca's markets, revealing the systematic nature of human trafficking that accompanied Portuguese colonial expansion. The archaeological findings show that thousands of individuals were processed through these markets during the first decades of Portuguese control. Ferdinand Magellan made a purchase in this slave market that would unknowingly alter the course of world history. The 14-year-old boy he bought was named Enrique, though this Portuguese name replaced whatever his family had called him before his enslavement. Portuguese records describe Enrique as speaking Malay fluently along with several other regional languages, suggesting he had grown up in a trading community where multilingual skills were essential for survival. The boy's linguistic abilities made him particularly valuable to Portuguese colonists, who needed reliable interpreters for their interactions with local populations across Southeast Asia. Enrique demonstrated remarkable ability to acquire Portuguese language skills during his early years of enslavement under Magellan's ownership. Portuguese observers noted that the boy could translate complex conversations between Portuguese officials and local merchants within months of his purchase. His rapid language acquisition suggested both natural linguistic talent and desperate motivation to become indispensable to his Portuguese masters. Enrique learned to read and write Portuguese, skills that elevated his status within the colonial hierarchy and provided him with knowledge that few enslaved individuals possessed. The master-servant relationship that developed between Magellan and Enrique would have consequences that neither man could have predicted when the purchase was completed in Malacca's slave market. According to Antonio Pigafetta's detailed expedition records, Enrique served as a paid interpreter whose linguistic abilities proved essential for communication with local populations. Pigafetta documented that Enrique spoke multiple languages fluently, making him invaluable for negotiations and cultural exchanges during their travels. The boy learned Portuguese military tactics, navigation techniques, and exploration strategies that would prove crucial during Magellan's later circumnavigation attempt. Pigafetta's vocabulary comparisons suggest that Enrique possessed knowledge of Cebuano and other Philippine languages, indicating possible origins from those islands rather than the Malaysian peninsula where Magellan purchased him. This linguistic evidence supports theories that Enrique might have been captured during raids on Philippine coastal communities and transported to Malacca's slave markets along with other captives from distant islands. The historical irony surrounding Enrique's purchase becomes clear when considering the possibility that this enslaved boy from Southeast Asia may have become the first person to complete a journey around the entire globe. While Magellan died in the Philippines and never completed his circumnavigation, Enrique continued with the expedition and witnessed the return to Spain. If the linguistic research confirming his Philippine origins proves correct, then Enrique would have traveled from his homeland to Europe with Magellan, then returned to the Philippines during the circumnavigation expedition. This would make an enslaved teenager, rather than a famous European explorer, the first human being to circle the planet Earth. Magellan's years in the East had provided him with invaluable experience in navigation, colonial administration, and global commerce. But his service in Portugal's Eastern Empire would soon create unexpected complications when he returned home with ambitious plans for Western exploration.